she's sleeping. We might eat our dinner and then...
I cannot wait. This is so cute, guys. Her name is Georgie. She's a cute little kid.
Okay, so we have been back home now for 5 days, and everything's going really well. The baby's name is Georgia, and she was born, it was actually a pretty quick delivery. Well, I say pretty quick, I mean that's relative, right? Some people have babies in like 2 hours. But she was probably what I would consider my most straightforward and simplest pregnancy and birth. There was just nothing exciting through all of this and through recovery, which has been great. We like boring pregnancies and deliveries, not having anything exciting. But anyway, her name is Georgia, and she was 8 pounds 3 ounces when she was born, which is right in the middle for us. My smallest baby was actually Patton, who was the baby before her, was number 6, and he was 7'2", which is interesting because usually, from what I've heard, boys are larger, and he was my smallest. And my largest was actually JJ, who's baby number 4, and she was 8'11", and so the other baby's been right around 8 pounds. So Georgia falls right in the middle. And I apologize if you hear that loud noise in the background. I think the motor on our baby swing, we have a second-hand baby swing, and I think the motor is going out on it, unfortunately, but it'll be fine. It just, when it kicks on, it's really loud for a minute and then it quiets down. So I'm sorry about that background noise, but I'm afraid if I turn it off, she'll wake up and then make it impossible. I've tried to film this video a couple times, but I always get interrupted. So for this baby, we elected to be induced, and I know that elective inductions get kind of a big thumbs down in the more natural living, homesteading community. If you've been around long enough, you know, we've had several children since we've had this channel. I've had 3 home births, I've had 4 hospital births, not necessarily in that order, just kind of whatever was best for each pregnancy. But the last 2 pregnancies I've elected to be induced. And one of the reasons for that is just based on our distance to the hospital. It's an hour to a delivery hospital. It's an hour to anybody who would be able to help us if there was any kind of emergency. And so the older I get, the more nervous that makes me get, because the more babies you have, the more you realize how usually most things are okay, but if something goes wrong, it can go wrong really quickly. And being an hour away from anybody who would be able to help you in an emergency is a little bit scary. And so our last 2 babies I've elected to be induced just for my own, I guess, comfort or relief of anxiety. My babies have always gone past their due dates to 41 weeks, so I just elected to be induced after my due date, after full term, and figured that, knowing that my babies are always a little late, that we would make it to that date, and also that my body would be pretty close to ready for delivery so that the induction should go well. And again, just like last time, the induction went pretty well, pretty uneventfully. We went in at about 6:30 in the morning, and you know, they do all your lab work and stuff. They kind of get started around maybe 8, and then it takes a couple hours. They start slow, you know, with the Pitocin, and it takes a little bit for things to get going. And about 1 o'clock, the doctor came in and broke my water, and then at that point, labor really started, and she was born at 4. So it was about 3 hours of active labor after the induction kind of got us started enough that we could break the water, and it really just kind of rolled pretty quickly. When it was time to have her, when I told the nurse, you know, like, I'm ready to have the baby, the doctor wasn't actually in the hospital and she had to be called in, but the clinic was only about 5 minutes away, so it wasn't a big deal. Doctor came running in, and she came out in like 5 minutes. It was very quick, only a couple pushes. Came out screaming nice and loud. She has quite the cry, but she was ready to meet the world. And we actually got out of the hospital in 24 hours. They usually require you to stay 24 hours. I mean, you can always choose to leave before that. But the reason that they ask you to stay 24 hours is they do the newborn metabolic screenings at 24 hours. And so they ask you to stay long enough to do that. Already having a child that has a lot of special circumstances, I don't think I would ever skip the metabolic screen. I know that's also something that's kind of talked about in the homesteading community, about whether or not you want to, put your child's DNA out there to the state lab or whatever conspiracy theory you want to get worked up in. But I do think it's really important. Some of the things that they screen for are things that, if they're caught really early, quality of life can really be improved, but it's imperative that they're caught before their symptoms. And so I don't think I would ever skip out, especially having a child that already has a lot of medical needs and knowing how important early intervention was for her. I would never want another one of my children to miss out on some sort of early intervention that would really benefit them in the long term. So we stayed the 24 hours to do that. And then we went home because everything looked really good. They said we could stay another night. Insurance will pay for another night if you want it to. But I didn't really feel a need, and I really wanted to have at least a day at home, getting settled at home before we brought the kids back. All the other kids were at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and I knew once they came back it would be kind of chaos, and I kind of just wanted to get a feel for how the baby was going to do at home, kind of get a feel for if she had her days and nights flipped, like some babies do. When is her longer sleep going to be during the day, that first, week or two? When does she like to cluster feed? Even though newborns don't really have a schedule, they do kind of follow a pattern, at least about when they prefer to be awake and when they prefer to do their little bit of longer sleeps, which is really only like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. But so I could kind of get that figured out, so I knew how we were going to handle the kids. Sam has been home the last few days, which has been really helpful too. So she takes her longer sleep right now in the morning after breakfast, and so I've been able to sleep in the morning, and he sleeps at night, and then I stay up kind of at night with her when she's doing her more like cluster feeding awake time, and then we'll kind of switch, and I'll feed her in the morning, and then she usually sleeps. Last couple of days she slept about 3 hours first thing in the morning, and I'll go to bed and get some rest. So that's helped a lot. With other babies, he's always had to work. He's been working 6 or 7 days a week for several years, which means he really didn't have any time off. He would have taken time off to have the baby, but then he would go back to work immediately. And so I was up all night, and then I had to be up all day because they're small kids at school, and that's always really challenging. So this time it's nice. He did take a couple days off when we had the baby, but then because he works 3 12s, he automatically has days where he doesn't go into work, which is the greater part of this week, and then he'll go with his regular schedule at the end of the week. And so it's felt like he's had a lot of time off, even though it hasn't been a lot of actual time off. So that's been really nice and helpful. And so I do feel pretty well rested for having had a newborn. Even if my sleep's really choppy and interrupted, I actually get some chunks of sleep because he's able to be home and help while I'm sleeping. So that's really nice. Baby was supposed to have her first checkup today with our doctor, but it actually ended up getting canceled because we had an ice storm last night, so it got postponed, but that was okay. I don't really have any concerns. She's nice and pink and plump, and she is, making lots of diapers, and breastfeeding seems to be going really well, so we had to reschedule that for a couple of days, but I'm okay with that. I don't have any immediate concerns, but we'll go ahead and we'll go to town and get a checkup. We'll probably take you along for the ride because we had a viewer let us know that some packages are coming our way, and I got an alert that they were in the post office. So we'll do a baby checkup video, and we'll see what fun things are in our post office box. The girls always love opening up packages and letters from our viewers, so we'll do that next. So thank you so much for joining us for this shorter video today, and we'll be back now to our regular scheduled programming, which is usually Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then a live stream on Monday nights. We'll see you guys soon.